So Pixar's original animated series, Win or Lose, it's going to be coming out in February, I believe. It was announced or revealed. The story was broken by The Hollywood Reporter. It's been reported that the show will no longer include a transgender storyline. Again, this was exclusively broken by Hollywood Reporter, THR. A source close to the show, to the project, says the decision was made several months ago, right? So this isn't something that they just decided recently, supposedly. And when this was revealed, Disney, put out a statement. I think THR reached out to them, and their response to the story breaking was, quote, "When it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline," end quote. Which is really disappointing and very unfortunate language, right? Kind of framing the existence of trans people as like this ideological thing that parents need to weigh. When should we talk to our kids about this? As if it's not just a lived reality that exists, right? So again, a little context on this show. So Win or Lose, this is an upcoming show by Pixar for Disney+. Notably, this is like the first original series that Pixar is doing that's not based on a pre-existing film. It was a big deal when they did like a show on Disney+. I think they did like a Monsters, Inc. University spinoff. And then recently they just launched like the show, was it called Dream Productions? It's like based off of like the Dream filmmaking in Inside Out and like that universe. But this would be like the first, like an original thing, an original set of characters and storylines and things like that. It's currently scheduled for February of this upcoming year of 2025. I think it was supposed to come out earlier, but they kind of shuffled some things around to accommodate Dream Productions. Because that's so important. You got to accommodate Dream Productions. And the premise of the show is that it would follow a co-ed middle school softball team, I think called the Pickles, which is cute. And each of the 8 episodes would focus on the off-the-field life of one of the characters, whether it be one of the players or one of the parents or a coach or the umpire even, and kind of use that as like a way to frame what's going on the field. And that's how the best sports shows or movies are, is that you don't just have the stuff on the field over here and then the stuff off the field's over here. So ideally they're like talking to one another. Like the two worlds are informing one another and one frames our understanding of the other and vice versa, right? And reportedly, I say that as if it's like a mystery. No, we know this. So reportedly, one episode of the show would have focused on a trans character, one of the students, or one of the players. And I think this is real. A storyboard of this sequence actually leaked following this announcement of like the character going to a bathroom. And it's this really interesting, subtle, I mean, again, it's only in storyboard form, but it's like this very subtle but powerful exploration of gender dysphoria using like abstract geometric shapes. So like as the character's looking in the mirror, like their face starts to almost become like a Picasso painting. And it's this really interesting, intuitive way of explaining what it's like to be trans and wrestling with the disconnect between your identity and the body that you exist in, right? The character will still be in the show. They're not being cut out. But dialogue referencing the character's gender identity or their transness will be removed, right? And this is just another blow it reflects Disney's very complicated relationship with the queer community, right? Because, the queer community, and I'm using that as a very broad blanket term, and I know there's diversity within it, and because obviously there's gay, lesbians and trans people, and obviously there's a lot of diversity, but just for the sake of speaking, I'm just going to use this blanket term, the queer community, right? It's the community is a major part of Disney's fan base, right? Like when you think of Disney adults, like there's a Venn diagram of gay adults and Disney adults, and there's like a big overlap. It's not a circle, it's not on top of each other, but there's a big overlap, right? Whether it be because Disney is about embracing your individuality, or they like the songs, or they were picking up on all the queer coding from the 90s in these movies. In any case, the queer community a lot of people love Disney in this world, right? And there's been a lot of queer baiting, right? So Disney's aware of this affinity that they have. So, there's a lot of kind of signaling things to the community to make it seem like they care and that they want to be more inclusive and bring them into the fold, and take them out of the margins, right? So, I feel like for the last decade, Disney has announced, like, this will be the movie with the first gay Disney character. I feel like they've said that 800 times. They can't all be the first gay Disney character. And what often ends up happening is they'll hype this up, and it'll be like a blink and you miss it little moment, or they might kiss someone, or they're holding the hand, a woman's holding a hand with another woman, and these are always so quick blinking you miss it, so that they can edit that shot, that 2-second shot, out for when they release it in countries that have stricter censoring and they're more homophobic, like maybe something like I don't want to call them out, but something like Saudi Arabia, right? That might be not fair to Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure if they're one of those countries, but I think it's like one of those, maybe like the UAE or something. Because ultimately at the end of the day, Disney's a corporation first, right? They would love to be inclusive, and I'm sure the individual people within Disney are maybe very passionate about these issues. But the system, the corporate entity, only cares about those issues insofar as they can make the money. They only embraced the queer community and signaled that embrace when they deemed it profitable. So again, like the mid to late 2010s, following, the legalization of gay marriage. But things like this storyline being cut show that inclusion is conditional. That it is not this unconditional, we are embracing you because you are at the margins and we need to tell your stories. Rather, it's all about money. So if it's not going to make us money, or worse, it's going to cost us money, inclusion's out the window. It's conditional. And notably, Disney has been becoming more cautious and sometimes even hostile, right? Famously, one of the final straws of Bob Chapek's tenure as CEO at Disney was the whole "Don't Say Gay" bill in Florida, where the Florida and Ron DeSantis were trying to pass this bill where you basically couldn't talk about gay people existing in public schools to young children because it would be inappropriate to talk about that stuff. And Disney didn't put out a statement, and people within the company were mad that Bob Chapek didn't take a more firm stand, considering that a bunch of their business operations happen in Florida with their theme parks. So then they finally do make a statement, but it was very tepid, and they pissed off all the conservative people. So he basically made no one happy. So that was a big issue. More recently, I did a whole video about this. Leading up to the release of Inside Out 2, Disney, basically from on high gave decrees to try to remove any gay undertones between the character Riley and her friend that she really admires. And some thought, okay, well maybe, she's a lesbian, perhaps. So they wanted to make sure that they it was like very explicit, like we need to make her seem less gay. But it's also like, why? Like, what's wrong with her being gay, right? And then even more recently, there was a similar thing like this where there's a Disney Channel animated show. It's like based off of a Marvel comic, like a really obscure one called Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And there was an episode that was going to feature a recurring trans character. And members of the production claimed that Disney banned the episode. Disney then denied it was banned. You can also find those storyboards, but I think they're also voiced. Or storyboards more like animatics, like partially finished. It's actually pretty interesting. So again, you keep having this very explicit, like we are going to remove these elements. And reactions have not been very good. The saddest reaction of which is from the voice actress, 18-year-old Chanel, I think is her name, Chanel Stewart. The Hollywood Reporter notes that she won this role when she was 14 after responding to an open casting call for a trans actress, right? I don't know if she was an actress, but she just saw it and was like, this is me. I should try this. What do I have to lose? And despite, supposedly, the decision having been made months ago, she only found out like last week, like the day before the story broke, right? And responding to this happening, she said, quote, "I was very disheartened. From the moment I got the script, I was excited to share my journey to help empower other trans youth. I knew this would be a very important conversation. Trans stories matter and they deserve to be heard," end quote. And what's an even sadder quote is from her mother. Stewart's mom weighed in and said, quote, "It was upsetting because my daughter is transgender and this is her life. I felt like it was very important that we not hide that fact. There may be some parents out there who are not ready to have that conversation, but this is the world that we live in and everyone should be represented. Everyone deserves to be recognized." And it felt like it was just another setback for the LGBTQ community because it's very hard on transgender teenagers, transgender people, period. Especially when you're young and you're trying to figure out how to navigate this world that you live in and be able to grow into your own person, end quote. I think that's so insightful, everything that Stewart's mom said, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're talking about children who are understanding something fundamental about the nature of themselves, but they don't have the words to express it or even understand it. So more content, especially for children, that gives them a framework to try to process what's happening, would be so valuable. And and let me give you a statistic. I didn't even write this in my notes, but I'm very passionate's the wrong word, but I'm very, if someone's arguing against this, I can get pretty heated about it. We talk about a male loneliness epidemic, which is true. That young men are lonelier than they've been, they're more depressed than they've ever been, and I think right now the percent of male teenage boys, assuming cis teenage boys, the percentage of teenage boys who have seriously considered killing themselves is about 12 to 15%. That's horrifying. If you have a group of 10 boys, about one of them has considered killing themselves. That's awful. The percent of trans teenagers who have seriously considered killing themselves is 50 to 60%, right? So this is a life issue. This is a life or death issue. This is not ideological. This is not political. This is, saving lives. I'm not saying that by doing this they're killing people by taking the story out, but this is perhaps the first domino in the chain that can help trans kids or kids who haven't even come out as trans, but they're trying to they just don't have the words to express it or explore it. This is just very disappointing. And I think it does reflect, a post-Trump world. Again, they claim this decision was made months ago. But that seems dubious, but it doesn't undermine this, because corporations are seeing Trump's victory as a rejection of quote unquote wokeism, which I just fundamentally disagree with. I think if you look at any of the trends, people didn't embrace conservative social values, they embraced economic populism. It really had nothing to do with the woke whatever, right? But that's what corporations think. So because of that, now they're in a position where it's not advantageous. Not only is it not advantageous to embrace these issues and embrace social progress, sometimes it might actually be detrimental. So they're less willing to embrace it. They're more willing to actively reject it. They're scaling back any diversity, DEI efforts, whatever. And again, even if this was decided months ago, it doesn't mean it's removed from the Trump factor, because the last couple of months of the campaign, the ads really leaned into like this anti-trans hysteria of Kamala is for they, them. Trump is for you. So I think the corporations are looking at what they think is the writing on the wall and going, maybe if we embrace this, we're going to not make as much money, right? And that's all corporations. And that's true of a lot of media corporations, but especially Disney, because now that you have Bob Iger back, when he returned to save Disney, right? He mentioned that, he feels that the content had become too political, right? But again, the content is not political at all. All it is just the standard status quo politics, just with a new coat of paint. So it's the same kind of movies, just now with a black actor or like a female lead, right? The shows aren't particularly, the content isn't particularly political. So when people say it's become too political, it's a dog whistle, but they really mean too diverse. Whether it be racially or gender or, exploring something like the trans trans identities, right? Notably, most recently, ABC was getting in hot water with Trump. George Stephanopoulos had said Trump had been found legally liable for rape, which technically wasn't true. It was for sexual harassment or whatever it was. So Trump sued for defamation. There's a good chance that he wouldn't have been able to win, but Bob Iger decided it would be bad for business to go through this trial. Let's just settle. So again, it shows that corporate America, especially media companies, especially Disney, because of Bob Iger, they care much more about money than principles. That they are willing to throw the LGBTQ community under the bus, which is sad for a number of reasons. The principle part of it, but then also just purely this kind of content. Who knows how many lives this storyline may have, again, through a domino effect, a butterfly effect way, how many lives could have been changed for the better because of these stories, whether it be the kids themselves or other kids seeing it so that they can then understand the experience of their trans classmate, or their parents can see it and understand the experience of their trans children. So this is just really, really unfortunate. Viviana put a great comment here in the live chat. Please get in contact with local trans support services ASAP. Places like community health centers can connect you with the resources to do name changes and surgery letters before January 20th. That's a really great point. I don't want to fearmonger, but things may get harder once Trump is officially in office. So that's a great comment, Viviana. So if you're watching this, seek the support you need because it might become harder, unfortunately.
Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.